I live in what just might be the world capital of sprawl, Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not an easy life here. Half your paycheck goes to gas, your mailbox is a 3-minute drive away, and your nearest coffee shop is an hour commute. Okay, I might be exaggerating just a tiny bit, but it's true that Charlotte is one of the biggest car cities out there. It has a walk, transit, and biking score of 26, 27, and 31, and it was ranked dead last in population density in cities with over 1 million people. And as a proud 13-year Charlatan and realtor, I wanted to dive deep into how exactly Charlotte turned into the world capital of sprawl. Was it poor planning, bad luck, or is it just the cost of rapid growth? And more importantly, is sprawl even bad in the first place? After all, on paper, it has its perks. Bigger houses, quieter neighborhoods, your own driveway. With sprawl, you can fulfill the American dream, which does not include living shoulder to shoulder to other people in a small apartment. And while we all should be able to have our own house with sprawling land if we so want, mindlessly pursuing that vision has set us down a path that's slowly eroding the very quality of life we thought we were protecting. Over the years, I've watched as my community squeezes many new developments into places that were never meant to hold that many people. Right near my family's house, there's this so-called neighborhood that's really just a bunch of separate developments cobbled together under one name. One street has million-dollar modern craftsman builds that look like something off of HGTV, and then not even a couple turns down, it's like you've driven into another world with these decades-old houses that are in dire need of repair. It's because every few years, developers spread out a little more into precious land just to cram in more houses with no thought about the long-term effects. They're not thinking about how our collector roads aren't built for this many people or how our 2 elementary schools are at 96% capacity. They're just thinking about how rich they're gonna be when the new houses they're working on finish up. And yes, they're currently working on another new development. At this point, I've basically resigned myself to the fact that whatever greenery I see is just gonna get turned into more housing. And this is the same story around all of Charlotte. Developers are building farther and farther out, making it harder to build anything that feels like a shared life here. But how did it get so bad? What happened in Charlotte that didn't happen in more urban cities? Well, to answer that question, we have to go all the way back to the mid-1700s, when Charlotte was just a small crossroads town built along 2 busy Native American trading paths. You built close to your neighbors, the market, and to church. Fast forward a bit, and by the late 18 and early 1900s, Charlotte was riding the textile boom. Streetcars connected growing streetcar suburbs to the downtown core. So neighborhoods like Dilworth and Elizabeth were designed to be walkable and connected, which is why they are still so walkable to this day. But after World War II, everything changed. Federal highway money started pouring in, the GI Bill made home loans super affordable, and new zoning rules started pushing homes and businesses farther apart. And that's where annexation comes in, which is when a city pulls nearby unincorporated land into its official city limits. Once you're annexed, you get city services like water and trash, and you pay city taxes. Annexation for the city meant more revenue, more influence, and more control over how the region develops. But in most of the country, annexation was limited. It could only happen if property owners approved it or if the public voted in favor. Because of that, most American cities stopped growing outward by the early 1900s, with their boundaries essentially locked into place. But the South was a little different. Annexation laws allowed involuntary annexation, where cities could absorb unincorporated areas without the consent of residents. This led to Charlotte aggressively pulling in the surrounding suburbs, swallowing up miles of land and entire communities in order to get bigger tax bases, more control over development, and the political clout that came with being one of the fastest growing cities in the region. But they were so focused on expansion that they didn't think about what it would mean decades later to manage a city stretched so thin. Finally, in 2011, North Carolina changed the rules and banned involuntary annexation, but by then, the damage was already done. Decades of aggressive annexations had stretched Charlotte's boundaries so far that the city had too many low-density suburbs that became very expensive to maintain, harder to connect with transit, and nearly impossible to service efficiently. And real quick, if you're finding this video helpful, it'd be so awesome if you subscribed. I just started this channel with the goal of helping as many people as possible learn about Charlotte and North Carolina. And I'd appreciate any feedback in the comments for how exactly I can improve. And of course, if you're seriously considering moving here and need help making sure the process is as smooth for you as possible, reach out to me anytime. My team and I would be honored to help. Now, sprawling wouldn't be so bad if the city's zoning rules made it easy to live, work, and shop in the same area. But Charlotte's zoning has kept most neighborhoods strictly separated. Giant stretches of single-family homes in one place, with jobs, shopping, and services pushed far away into their own zones. This makes me especially frustrated because, believe it or not, for 1 year, I actually lived in Tokyo, Japan, and it completely redefined my understanding of what a city could be. Over there, I never once thought about owning a car, and yet it felt like the whole city was wide open to me. Every shop, park, and hidden corner of Tokyo was just a short train or bus ride away. I especially miss the fact that my grocery store and my favorite ramen shop were both less than a 5-minute bike ride from where I lived. And it was so nice to be surrounded by people on my commute instead of cars. It made the city feel much more alive and like I was part of it. When I came back to the States, I had this crazy moment where I realized that the same square mile where my entire life in Tokyo existed was smaller than my family's entire neighborhood. And Tokyo is twice as big as the greater Charlotte area. That's insane. But I'm not here to convince you that dense housing is the answer to everything or that it automatically creates a better community, even though I've seen firsthand how it can. What I will do is point to what the market itself is saying. People want life to be close. They don't want to burn hours in traffic, drive 20 minutes for groceries, or spend half their weekend shuttling between errands. The neighborhoods with the highest demand are the ones where daily life fits into a short walk, where shops, restaurants, and parks are part of the fabric of the community. Every time a new cluster of restaurants or stores opens up, the homes around it instantly become way more valuable. And yet, for some reason, we're still paving over fields and pushing neighborhoods farther out. And this gets right into the heart of why fixing sprawl is so hard for us. First, of course, is affordability. For the average future homeowner, the only way to find a house in their price range is to look farther and farther out. Land is cheaper on the edge, zoning is looser, and developers can build big, inexpensive subdivisions that simply wouldn't be possible closer in. And even if we did manage to bring homes closer together and cut down on sprawl, those areas would almost instantly become much more expensive, pricing out the average buyer and pushing them right back towards the outskirts. You also have to consider our highway system. Roads are the blueprints for where development happens. There's a new loop or widened freeway. You can bet housing will pop up along it. And once those roads and neighborhoods are in place, they're locked into that car-dependent pattern. You can't just rip up a freeway and drop in walkable streets. And with so much of the city locked into these low-density neighborhoods, even if we poured money into building a great public transit system tomorrow, it just wouldn't be convenient for most people. For the majority of residents, the places they live, work, and shop are in such low-density areas that a car would still be the only practical option. Not to mention, you have the NIMBYs, the not-in-my-backyard people, who fight any new development that's near them. Even small changes, like adding duplexes or mixed-use buildings, get dragged out for years. The end result is that it's often easier for developers to build on empty land at the edges of the city than to fight for infill projects in established neighborhoods. So what exactly is being done? Are we stuck with this forever, or can things actually change? Well, the good news is that Charlotte has known about this problem for years and has been making plans to fix it. Introducing Charlotte's 2040 plan, the city's official 20-year roadmap adopted by City Council in June 2021. Their big focus is on 10-minute neighborhoods, places where daily stuff like groceries, parks, and a bite to eat sits within a short walk, bike, or quick transit hop, and homes, shops, and streets are stitched together into complete communities. They do this by reimagining single zoning into 10 different place types. Instead of just saying this parcel is residential or that one is commercial, the plan focuses on what the land should feel like and has different categories for what exactly that looks like. Neighborhood 1 is your quiet, peaceful suburban neighborhoods. Not much change here from before, besides adding the option to build triplexes and duplexes. Neighborhood 2 is still quiet, but has a tad more urban feel, as it's filled with townhomes and small, mid-sized apartments. Now, neighborhood centers are where you start to see some bigger changes. These are your typical local strip malls by your neighborhoods, and in addition to being designed to be more walking friendly, with parking tucked away in the back to emphasize community, and a little plaza or green being built, there's even the option to add in housing right in this area. This is big because it starts to turn what used to be just a shopping stop into a community area with a heartbeat and identity. Which brings us to the two other notable place types that are doing this, but on a bigger scale: community and regional activity centers. These are the city's most lively hubs right now. Think of South End, Uptown, Ballantyne. And the plan is to keep that momentum up of turning them into everyday, vibrant neighborhoods instead of just workplace destinations. This means everything from more homes in the center to fixing up walkability and transit. And upping public transit is a big goal for Charlotte. Their aim is for 50% of trips to not be in cars by 2040. Yeah, and I want caviar every morning for the rest of my life. They're kind of just saying whatever sounds good at this point. But when we look at their initiatives, they are increasing their bus program to frequent more routes and have better crosstown services over the next 5 to 10 years, which is decent, but their big swings are in their plans for the new light rail systems, which are also the plans most up in the air. Currently, the red line is what looks most promising to happen, which connects the Huntersville, Cornelius, Davidson area up north back down to uptown. In 2024, the city announced a deal finally purchasing the O-Line corridor where they will be building on, which is some of the most tangible actions we have to date of this really happening. The Silver Line is the big mega project and the most up in the air. It's a planned 29-mile, 30-station west-to-east light rail connecting Belmont to the airport, to Uptown, to Matthews, to the Stallings Indian Trail area. If built, it would fundamentally reshape life here in Charlotte and is our best chance to get us to that 50% car travel in the future. But the likelihood of this happening by 2040 is extremely low. Funding isn't secured. The Uptown Gateway Station has been paused, which is an essential part of any of these transit systems. And with the project spanning many different counties, it just becomes an insanely complex and large-scale endeavor. I love my city, but I don't know if we have what it takes to actually do this. So ultimately, are we screwed? Will we never be walkable and always just a sprawl? Well, there is hope. South End is a shining example of Charlotte doing it right. Not long ago, the area was mostly old warehouses and parking lots. Then came the Blue Line light rail, and developers filled in the old lots with apartments, offices, and shops and restaurants, all within walking distance of the stations. Today, you can step off the train, grab coffee, head to work, pick up groceries, and meet friends for dinner, all without ever needing your car. It's now one of the hottest places to live, and more importantly, shows that Charlotte can actually build a 10-minute neighborhood. And that's the vision the 2040 plan is trying to scale across the whole city. If you're still watching and you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. It's free and it helps me a ton as I just started this channel. And if you're planning to move to Charlotte, don't hesitate to reach out to me so we can make sure that your move here is as seamless as possible. Until next time.